Well, hello, this is Yvonne Teoh Bource from Connect Soul with your weekly Soul Wisdom for the week of the 25th of June 2018. Wow, the weeks just are speeding by. Isn't that something? We're halfway through the year, and here in Melbourne, Australia, we have gone past the shortest day. That's always this great joy for me. When we've gone past the shortest day, it means that we are coming out of the cold. Well, slowly. I think there's still a bit to go, but the days get longer, and that is really good because, I love daylight saving. Having, sunshine. Isn't it funny how we're all sort of drawn to the light? I wonder why that is. So, what is the topic for this week? Well, it is, how do I stop the negative mind chatter? Wow, okay. So, or how do I stop my mind? That question comes up every time that someone mentions meditation. I can't stop my mind. Well, you don't want to stop your mind, let's face it, okay? Because your mind is very special to you. It's what makes us probably, set apart from the rest of nature, is that we have a mind that we can actually use consciously. The problem is that we don't use the mind consciously, we just let it run amok all the time. So I thought today that I would spend some time with you to have a look at how to change that state of affairs and to have your mind as your best friend and to have your mind aligned with the best version of yourself, with who you really are, with your authentic self. So I thought I'd break it down into 4 steps. And the first step to stopping your mind chatter is to be present. To be present. If you could be 100% present in the now whilst you're watching this, can your mind just focus on this, or is it thinking about what you haven't done yesterday or what you still need to do when this is over, or is it telling you, well, you shouldn't really be taking this time, or this is really too long for me to watch, or what is your mind doing whilst you are attempting to be engaged with this dialogue? So that's really the first step. It is, what is your mind doing? Being present. It was interesting this morning because, whenever I go to teach something, I'm usually, given it to look at within myself very quickly. And one of the things that my mind has a bit of a journey with is time. It's constantly telling me what time it is and how much time I still have, and what time I'm going to do the next thing, and have I run out of time. And it's really funny because I have certainly several times worked on getting rid of that and saying, no, I'm not going to be focusing on time, but somehow I keep coming back to it. So this morning again it's going, oh, okay, now what time is it, and what time are you going to be doing this YouTube clip, and what time is your next engagement, and and I went, whoa, here you go. So I stopped the mind, and I focused 100% on what I was doing. And at the time what I was doing is I was making myself some toast because it was breakfast time, and I was pouring water into my cup, and I became incredibly focused on that. I am now pouring water into my cup. I am now squeezing out my tea bag. I am now eating my toast. And I am now going to sit and have my breakfast. And the minute that I brought all of my attention back to the moment, the mind did not have much else to do but to do what I focused on. So that's the first step. It has become really present. Whatever you're doing right now, give it 100%. Because last week I told about the fact that, we only have the now, and when we let it go, it just disappears, and it's gone, and it's gone. But the more that you focus 100% on the present, the more meaning you will find in the present. So for me, that is step number one. I need to be present. And then, this is probably step number two, is my favorite topic. It's garbage in, garbage out. It was funny because this morning I was listening to, before I do a YouTube clip on a certain topic, I usually look what other people are talking about that topic. And I slipped into something that Sadhguru was saying, and he was saying that, we have mind, I call, we can have verbal diarrheas when our mouth runs away with us all the time. But he said, you can have mind diarrhea. And he says, the thing about it is that you have intestinal problems and get, diarrhea of the gut when you eat the wrong foods. And it's the same with the mind. And I thought that was such a wonderful analogy, because I'm always saying garbage in, garbage out. So whatever you feed the mind, so if you feed the mind the wrong food, you are going to have diarrhea, as he calls it. It's probably not a very nice subject, but hey, it's a good analogy. So then your mind runs away with you, and you are just a victim to it. So step number two is very much about becoming an observer of what your mind is preoccupied with now. What stories does your mind run on? What are you feeding your mind? Are you feeding your mind with dramas? Oh, we humans are so good at that. Hey, have you heard? Did you hear that so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so? And off goes the story. Now, in that moment, are you present in your own life? No. In that moment, are you having any really beneficial effect on your life or anyone else's? No. No. You are a victim to stories that are running amok. I always say that your mind is like a whole bunch of brumbies running, or, if you're in another country, wild horses. And they're out in the prairies and they're running amok. And you're tied to the horse with a rope and you're bouncing along behind it, and it's not good. So what we need to do is we round up the brumbies, the wild horses, we corral them, and we teach them what we want them to do. Okay, it's really important. And then we can take the reins and we can guide them. And that's the same with the mind. So what are you feeding the mind? Are you getting up every morning and turning on the radio and listening to the news? Well, that's somebody else's life. It's somebody else's stories. Okay? I don't know. Certainly not my way of starting a day. Are you watching the media on the television? What are you feeding your mind? That is incredibly important. You are feeding whatever you are experiencing, however you are perceiving your world is as a result of what you are feeding your mind. So of course your mind chatter is all going to be about, oh, well, did you hear about that? And guess what happened there? And, and I heard that, and I did this, and I did something else. And just, this goes on all the time. So why do we do that? Well, it's a habit. It's a habit because we do it because we're not present. We do it because we feel we don't have anything important to say, and we cannot stand silence. Oh my goodness me. People who always, if you're having a quiet time, have to speak. I love quiet time. But that's another step. So this step two is so essential. Become the observer of your mind and see what is your mind occupied with all the time. In the classes that I run, I observe people and I observe how people's minds run. And so what I've noticed is that when people want to make a change in their life, it's very difficult when you are facing something that you don't like, right? Then it's very difficult to tear your mind away from that into a better imagined experience. But literally that's what you need to learn to do. You have to stop putting all your attention on what is, if it is not what you want, and start to put more attention on, why do you think we're able to daydream? Why do you think we have this wonderful imagination? So you need to look at the outside world if it's not what you want, and you need to go, okay, I have the power to change what I'm looking at. I have the power to change my mind, because you do. It's just that we don't take that opportunity. So every time you look at what's outside that you don't like and you run a story about it, you are intensifying that experience. But if you look at the outside world and it isn't what you would like, you go, oh, okay, I have some more work to do in looking at things differently, and I need to focus more on how I would like it instead. Because every time that you feed your mind repeating the story that you don't like, you are just going to get more of that. And so the mind will run away with it and have all sorts of wonderful stories about it. And so the chatterbox goes on and on and on and has all the power over you. So, step 2 is observe your mind as it is today and recognize that garbage in can only give you garbage out. Step 3 is what I call my no diet. I love my no diet. So this morning when I was having this parley with my mind about time, I just went, no, we are not going there. So anytime that your mind runs away with an old idea, an old story, an old way of perceiving life, you say no. Thank you, but no thank you was one of Louise Hay's most famous sayings. But it's very true. You need to say no. You need to say no to the mind when it takes you to places you don't want to go. So go on a no diet. If you're observing your mind and you suddenly find yourself running a story that is not beneficial for you, that is not taking you where you want to go, you have to say no to it and say, no, thank you, no, that does not serve me. And then you change it to thoughts that do serve you, and you guide your mind to stories that feel good. It's not so difficult, If we guide our mind constantly to stories that feel good, we're on the path out of negative mind chatter. It's really, really not so difficult to understand. It may be a little bit more difficult to actually do. But like everything else, it takes repetition, it takes intent, and then it takes being aware and consciously making that shift. Right? So I'll go on a no diet. You can use that for so many things. I use it because sometimes I have had a tendency to have a sweet tooth. Much less now. It's very bad for me and for my digestion, and I know that. So I'm limiting it more and more and more. And so when my old brumbies go, oh, it would be nice to have, something like that, then I just go, I have my no diet. I go, no, it wouldn't be nice. I mean, your taste buds might like it, but you know that your body doesn't require it, and actually it's not good for you. So no, thank you. It's in those moments you can actually go on your no diet. You can use it for situations where you have a tendency to wallow. We have our pity parties. Well, I allow myself, if I have ever a pity party, I allow myself about 2 minutes because I know it feels awful, and I am a magic creator. Because I'm so aligned with the highest version of myself, with intent, that I know that if I pay much attention to a pity party, I'm going to be going down that spiral so fast. It's like, whoa, okay. And it'll take me a long time to get out of there. So, that's a story. No, it won't. So I don't give myself much time for a pity party. But if it happens, then again, I go to a no diet because I know instantly that it doesn't feel good. And my intention is to feel expansive, to feel joyful, to feel in a state of appreciation and gratitude and love. That is how I choose to live. So when my mind takes me out of that, I instantly feel it and I go, no, thank you, but no thank you. And then I change. And the change is done very quickly. A change is always done with gratitude because we all have so much to be grateful for. So if you're feeling this and you are wallowing, and go to instantly, what have I got to be grateful for? And take yourself to a place where you feel better. I think the whole power of this is to know that your mind is your mind. It's not that it has a mind of its own, only if you don't use it. If you don't take hold of your mind and use it for your benefit, then the mind has no option but just to run amok and to only run on past experiences, past conditioning. And that's how we keep repeating the same mistakes all the time. Because we're not taking control of our mind and we're not taking ourselves where we want to go. So that is step 3, the no diet. Step 4, I guess, is probably also one that I find really beneficial and I use all the time, and that is stillness. Just imagine if you never slept. How would your body feel? Well, those of us who've had children, we know that experience, right? You lose your mind. You do. You lose your mind. You're like, oh my God. Well, the other thing, it's a little bit like jet lag. Same feeling, all right? You are not rested. So can you imagine if your mind is never given a break? If you just allow it to run amok all the time, it needs some rest. And yes, we talk a lot about meditation, and people really have a very distorted idea about meditation. I think that needs to be another topic that I will address. But for me, it's not so much about doing a meditation as living a meditative life, which means that I like to have lots of moments of stillness in my life. And I start my day with a moment of stillness. Now, that stillness doesn't mean that it has to be quiet completely, but it is something that stops my mind from having to do anything. My mind can just rest a little, and I love stillness. And the best way to have stillness of the mind is to sit and observe your breath. Just do it with me for 1 or 2 moments. Just have nothing to do other than observe your beautiful body breathing for you. You don't have to be engaged in, I must breathe. No, it is doing that all the time for you. How amazing is that? So now I'd like you to just for a moment be in stillness and just observe that without any story about it. Just observe your breathing. Isn't that just lovely? That is just so lovely and peaceful. Well, if you do that a couple of times a day, you don't have to go, and you don't have to go, I've got to meditate. Just doing that takes you into a space of stillness. The word meditation means to focus on one thing. And as I say, I will do a video on that in time to come when I'm guided to do that. But right now, I would like you to practice stillness every day in your life. Just practice stillness. You know, I always had this weird inner thought that I am a magician, or I'd like to be a magician. I don't know which thought was more prevalent, right? And knowing that I could make things happen just like that. Just like that! Well, at times I can. And this morning was such a time, and it always makes me laugh. Because, as you know, I always look for a card, an oracle card, to substantiate what I've been talking about, or to confirm, or to add to. And so this morning I went to a pack of cards that I use a lot for myself, and I pulled out a card, or a card flipped out, which had really nothing to do with this topic, but was a message for me personally. So I went, okay, thank you, I love that message and I'm very grateful, but I have to think about, what am I going to have as a card to add to what we've been talking about. So I left it when I finished my breakfast, and then as I was ready to come and do this, I just dipped my hand into what I've been using the last couple of weeks, the bowl of now cards, and I laughed. Because what came out was this. It's mind, it's illusion, go beyond. Now, you can't consciously, conjure that up, but it happens, and it makes me laugh because I feel like the magician. I just asked for that, and I went, okay, here it is. So, you can do that, and I'm sure you already are, but you might not be noticing it. So this is what it says, okay? Take a moment, close your eyes, and have a good look at how you are caught up and lost in mind trips. Stories, yeah? That's what we've been talking about today. You are following a path based upon inappropriate ideas and judgments that in fact project a false view of reality and keeps you in suffering and from being free. Now, that really makes me just add something to what I've been talking about. Because if you are asking to stop your mind chatter, what you're telling me is that your mind chatter is not aligned with who you are. Your mind chatter is in opposition, or as Abraham says, Esther Hicks says, it's in contrast to where you're supposed to be or with who you are. So if you're asking to stop your mind chatter, what you're saying to yourself is that my mind chatter is not aligned with the highest version of me. I don't want to stop my mind chatter because my mind is only occupied with love, joy, appreciation, insatiable, quest for learning. So my mind chatter is fine, but then also I give it some rest every now and then. So if you're asking to stop your mind chatter, know that your mind is not aligned with you, okay? Step out of this bondage by setting aside these ideas, concepts and judgments, and see reality as it is, not what you are projecting on it. So, when you are looking at what is, you instantly project a story like, I am sick, or one of the things that I know for me that I made a big shift about is that everybody believes that you've got to get the flu and therefore you have to have flu injections. And please don't follow I'm not giving you advice, because if you believe you need it, then you need it. But for me, it's not something that I want to do. And so I made a conscious decision and in my mind that I don't do colds. And look, I don't have colds as such at all. And we have all these stories about colds. If we have a draft, if we sit in a draft, we could catch a cold. If we hug somebody who has a sniffle, we can catch that cold. We have all these stories that we're conditioned with, that we believe in. So when that situation occurs, we project onto it our belief. which is a story, okay? But if we change that belief and we go, well, I don't do colds, which is what my mind believes, I don't do colds. If I have even the slightest sign of a sniffle or a thing, I just say to my mind, remember, we don't do colds, so I know what you're on about, let it go. And it does. I might take an extra vitamin, I might get, an essential oil to support the body to not have the cold, but I absolutely trust and know that we won't have that cold because we just don't do them. But that's a story, that's a mindset that I have created, right? So what it says here, what you are projecting onto it. So whatever you're looking at, again, I say, if it's not what you like, it's because of what you're projecting onto it. And if you just look at it and it is what it is, and you step aside from it and you're detached from it and you go, well, that isn't how I would like it. So I am going to change the way that I look at it, and I'm not going to keep focusing on that. So you can't change that if you keep focusing on it. The problem is not the situation, but your projections onto the situation. Clear them, the problem disappears, and you are free. Wow. Amazing stuff. It is amazing stuff. We are magicians. We are co-creators with this conscious field of intelligence. Why not accept the job and do it properly, do it in a way that's going to give you joy and love and abundance and just great expansion of who you are. That is what's on offer. So I hope there's that word again. Well, I do hope for you that this has been helpful and that you will use these 4 steps. So if you like what you hear and you want to do some more of my work, all the links to my work are in the I said discipline box last time. That's so crazy. By the way, to change your mindset takes discipline. In the description box below, there are all the links to all my work, and I have to set some new programs. I've now just added a second retreat in Bali in September 2019. It's not on my, I'm changing it today on my, by the time you get this, it ought to be on my website. But September 12th to 19th, 2019 is now a new date. So many things, and if you would like a private session with me, then just send me an email via my website, and let's together make your world a better world, and as a consequence, make this world a better world. I love you, love yourself more, and have a great week.